Good Monday makers, it's time for another community build roundup, and in this week's episode we're going to be checking out a boathouse awning, a grilling cart, a theater set, an outfeed table, a sea-doo rack, and a really impressive Conduit Trebuchet. There's all kinds of really great projects that we're going to check out, and remember, even if you're not making any of these specific builds, you can still watch along and learn some techniques and different things that you can incorporate into whatever it is that you're making. With that said, let's jump into today's builds. First up is this boathouse awning from Greg, and this is really cool. You can see here they have a nice boathouse with a dock out on the water, and I guess the whole boat is out on the water. That's what a boathouse is. But they wanted to build a sunshade canopy outside over this sitting area that they have, and it looks like it's working well. There's some shade being provided to the seats and table down below, and they used 1/2-inch EMT conduit and maker pipe fittings to put this together. And they actually used quite a few different things besides conduit and connectors. They used, it looks like, some off-the-shelf electrical couplings to connect the corners to the long horizontal pieces of conduit. And then you can see the maker pipe coupling being used there to join the two long pieces of conduit. You can also see, it looks like they have galvanized plumbing T-connectors. I don't know if we get a close-up of those, but you can see those here. And that allows the legs to fold up, I believe. So I think that it's a fitting that's a larger diameter than EMT conduit. So that allows these legs to rotate and fold up into place whenever they want this to, fold up against the house here. And I think the way they accomplished the hinge up here was with eye hooks, if I'm not mistaken, which is a good technique that we haven't really talked a lot about. But if you can find an eye hook that is large enough to accept a 3/4 inch or whatever size conduit you're working with, then you can use that as a hinge because the conduit will just sit inside of the eye hook and then rotate around inside of it. We should do a full video talking about that, but that's a good idea here. And we can see that's how they made, I think that's how they made the hinge for this to fold up against the house. And then they got a tarp that sits inside the frame and it's just pulled tight with ball bungees, which is a great technique for doing that. And as you can see, it looks awesome. So thanks so much, Greg, for sharing this. Next up is a build from Robert, and this is a grilling cart. Unfortunately, we don't get really any more photos besides this, but we can kind of see the main idea. So it looks like he's got a grill here. It doesn't have a base attached to it, which is probably why he made this cart, or maybe he took it off of an existing grill that he had. But basically, this just sits inside of the empty conduit frame. It looks like he used some black shrink wrap and maybe painted the connectors black to match and built this framework to hold the grill and some other materials. You can also see, I think the propane sits down back there on the platform that he built. And it looks like he's got some really cool wood here attached to the frame. I'm not even sure how you make wood like that, but that's really awesome. You can see here that he's got wheels attached, probably using the axle method that we've talked a lot about on the channel. I'll link a video in the description on how to do that. But that's really cool and allows you to lift up one side and roll it and move it around. And this is a really great project. All kinds of cool stuff in here. Don't really get to see more photos, but that's okay because we can see the gist of it and it looks really awesome. So thanks so much, Robert, for sharing this in the Facebook group. We really appreciate it. Next up is a theater set from a Rich Fellow on Instagram. And they made a set for their Night of the Living Dead production, which is really cool. You can see here, when you look at this, you can see they've got this nice setup, got a fake fireplace, and they've got a couch, a TV stand, all kinds of stuff. And the whole backdrop system is made out of EMT conduit and connectors, which is really fantastic. And whenever he, first tagged us in this, I wasn't really sure where the maker pipe and conduit was until I saw the kind of behind the scenes photo here. It's actually the whole wall system, which is really cool. Basically just used EMT conduit and maker pipe connectors, probably just T's at the top and then 90s down here to make this 3-way connection. And then basically just stretched out some fake, looks like fake wallpaper, or I guess it's like fabric that is meant to look like wallpaper, and just stretch that out within the frame, which is really cool. They also added a door frame in there. You can see the windows with all of the other props and different aesthetics attached to the framework just to kind of give this the look that it needs for the production. That's really funny. And it's just a really awesome project and really cool. They incorporated maker pipe and conduit into it, and they were able to kind of customize it to make the various walls and the different angles that they needed to support the production and the play and the characters and everything. So really cool. Thanks so much for sharing this. Really awesome build. Next up is an outfeed table from Gary, and this is really cool. So he said he was working with a specific material. It's called Azek, not really sure, Azek. So it's a synthetic material, but it's basically a long board that has kind of like a tongue and groove system that you can connect together. But as you can see in this photo, it's a really long piece of material. So if you're cutting that down here on this table saw, then you're going to have some issues holding that up, and it's going to be kind of annoying. So he just constructed a really simple outfeed table using 90-degree connectors in the corners and then T connectors just to add some supports for the material going down the frame. And then on the other end, to use 90s again with 45-degree bracing in there as well. And it looks like he even attached a flat edge to the framework to give kind of a backstop for the material. I'm not sure. It looks like it's just a piece of angle iron it looks like it is a piece of angle iron, and I think it's just clamped to the frame. And it looks like maybe it's self-tapping screw. I guess you could self-tapping screw through that into the conduit, but I think it's just clamped there, which is totally fine, and it's getting the job done. And this is really cool. Nice and simple project, but it kind of solves a big need if you're working with this material and you need to support it as you're working on it. So really cool. Thanks so much for sharing this, Gary. We love seeing it. Next up is a Sea-Doo rack, and this comes from Paul. And this is really cool. There's all kinds of stuff incorporated into this. We can see that it's shrink-wrapped blue to match the Sea-Doo, and it's got black connectors, which also matches the aesthetic of the Sea-Doo. And basically, this is a rack made to haul, it looks like crates in here. So if it's just normal storage, maybe some gear you're putting in there, or it looks like some fuel canisters. And then you've also made it where it can hold a cooler, which is really awesome as well. And here you can kind of see the construction of the frame. So it's just 90-degree connectors in the corners and then T connectors to add the bracing here. And it looks like it's 2-hole strapped to some angle iron that is attached to the back of the Sea-Doo. Not sure if that's something that Paul added or if that's something that's already on there that you can attach stuff to. Regardless, I'm sure that's pretty strong. And I think just for some added security, he added zip ties that pulls the rack and kind of secures it in place to the eye hooks, I think in the front and on the back side here of the rack. And really good idea just for added security. And this is just a really awesome rack. Pretty simple overall, just a few connectors. And then there's some rubber pipe feet on the end as well, which is kind of protecting the paint job of the Sea-Doo. And just all in all, really cool. So thanks so much, Paul, for sharing this. Really great build. Last but not least, this week is a pumpkin chunkin trebuchet made out of EMT conduit. And this is really impressive and really cool. And here we can see it in action. I'll play this video here, and it's in slow motion. But there it is. The pumpkin is being launched in the air, and it's an EMT conduit and maker pipe trebuchet. And we built one of these a few years ago, and these from Eric Trofader on Instagram puts ours totally to shame because this is just truly epic. They even made 2 of them, and you can see here they synchronized them, and they've got 2 in action, which is super sweet and just a really awesome project. And he actually shared some more details. I commented and asked if we could see some more because, like I said, this put our trebuchet to shame. So we just wanted to, learn more about it and see all the things that he came up with. So here's a close-up of the frame. You can see, I think it's 1-inch EMT conduit, or actually, no, I guess that would have to be 3/4 inch because there's an adjustable angle connector. And this is a really interesting technique that I've never thought of that I think is really cool and makes a ton of sense. So you can see here that the base, there's pipes that go up and support the main arm that, performs all of the swinging action and the rotating and everything. And he actually used the adjustable angle connectors, just attached them normally here, but instead of attaching, a 45-degree or, whatever angle this is, brace from down here to a pipe in the same plane, it's kind of tilted in a little bit and then goes up and connects with adjustable angle connectors up here at the top. And that is really interesting and something I don't think I've ever seen or really thought about, but makes a ton of sense if you need to brace a particular point in your build that's under a lot of stress, which in this case it is. So that's really cool. Wanted to highlight that. We can see here they use mini connectors to put together a little miniature model of the Trebuchet and plan out those things, including the braces that we were just talking about. They've got a bearing in there that's acting as the counterweight. This is really cool. Here you can see the framework in construction. They've got it inside. Here it is next to their old option. I think they said this is made entirely out of steel, and it was super heavy, I think 1,000 pounds. They said it was a lot more dangerous to operate, really hard to move around and store, and they're really happy with the Maker Pipe and Conduit version that they made this year. And here you can see there's a ton going on up here. This is the latch mechanism that you pull from far away to activate it and unhook it, and he shared all kinds of details about that, which is really cool. And here's a close-up of this mechanism in the middle. So much going on here. This is a custom CNC plate that they put together, I think. Here you can see spaced apart with what is it? I don't know. It's HDPE. I forget what the acronym is, but using HDPE as spacers and the bearings in there and everything. And there's Eric next to his creations, which is really cool. And just a really awesome project, really elaborate. And I'll be sure to link this down below so you can check out all of the details behind it. Really smart and just really awesome. So Eric, thanks so much for sharing this and going back and sharing even more details when we reached out and asked you to, because that's really cool and always a ton of fun to see. So thanks everybody for posting your builds. All of these will be linked down below if you want to check any of them in more detail. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.